When a millionaire opens his door at 3 a.m. He never expected this single mom in the rain. The clock struck 3, the night's atmosphere thick with tension and the weight of secrets. At the sprawling mansion atop the hill, plush carpets muffled footsteps, and expensive art hung in silent judgment. The world outside roared with an unrelenting storm, rain slashing at the windows, thunder rumbling like the growl of a beast. Arthur Kane, a millionaire wrapped tightly in his wealth, was jolted from sleep by a frantic series of knocks. What could pull anyone out in a tempest like this? He hesitated, gripping the edge of his mahogany bedpost so hard his knuckles turned white. Mind racing, Arthur's heart pounded in his chest. Was it danger? A bad omen? Or something he couldn't even fathom? Each second felt like an eternity as he crept to the door, the echoes of the storm mingling with his own ominous thoughts. He swung the door wide open and was met with a sight that left him breathless. There she stood, a soaked figure struggling against the downpour, a single mom, drenched and desperate, clutching a shivering child against her chest. Eyes wide with fear, she looked up at him, and the raw emotion radiating off her was palpable. The rain cascaded off her tangled hair and dripped from her chin like a desperation waterfall. A lump formed in Arthur's throat as he noted the tremor in her voice. "Please, I need help." The air was thick with confusion and urgency. Why was she here? What had brought her to his doorstep, at this ungodly hour? The world outside howled, but inside, a different kind of storm brewed, chaos mixed with compassion. Arthur felt the stirrings of duty push against his tightly controlled life, a life he believed kept all things unmanageable at bay. He hesitated, caught between a luxurious existence and the haunting vulnerability of the woman before him. Was this a reckless act of fate, or an opportunity to break free from the chains of his gilded cage? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Arthur's mind raced, the woman's eyes flashed with desperation, pleading for warmth, safety, and understanding. The storm outside continued its fury, but inside, something shifted. Arthur realized he held the power to change both of their lives in one fleeting moment. What secrets would unravel if he let this new reality in? What could she reveal that he had been blind to? Wrapped in his bubble of wealth, he took a deep breath, his heart pounding louder than the thunder as he stepped aside, inviting her into the madness of his life. But as he did, he couldn't shake the feeling that his once ordinary world was about to shatter in ways he couldn't even predict. The moment she stepped inside, the warmth of his lavish living room enveloped her like a blanket. Arthur quickly closed the door behind them, sealing out the tempest and locking them in a scenario that felt both intimate and dangerous. The flickering light from the ornate chandelier danced across her face, illuminating her fear and exhaustion. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking slightly, and he nodded, unsure of what to say. She looked around, her gaze taking in the plush furniture, the sparkly decorations, with wonder and a hint of disbelief. It felt almost grotesque, the beauty of his world juxtaposed with the chaos of hers. "Can I get you something warm?" Arthur offered clumsily, still grappling with the surreal nature of the situation. She hesitated, glancing down at her child who clung tightly to her. The boy, about 4 maybe, peered out at Arthur with wide, watery eyes. "Just a towel," she said, brushing the rain-soaked strands of hair from her face, the shimmer of desperation glinting in her eyes. He moved swiftly to grab a towel from the nearby bathroom. This simple act felt monumental, a bridge between their lives. The moment was electric. There was something profoundly raw in the way she accepted the towel, like she was receiving not just fabric but a lifeline. Do you need to call someone?" he ventured, sensing the weight of unspoken words thrumming between them. "No," she replied, too quickly. I just need to get out of the rain. Her response draped the conversation in a shroud of mystery. It was a deflection, carving a clear line between what she was willing to share and what she was clearly running from. As if to punctuate the gravity of that line, another roar of thunder rattled through the mansion, the kind that made the windows seem like they might shatter under pressure. The boy flinched, burying himself deeper into his mother's side. Arthur's chest tightened. "Why are you here?" His question slipped out before he could reconsider. He felt guilty almost, intruding on her secret, but it was a question that buzzed between them like a live wire. She paused, her expression shifting. "I have nowhere else to go," she admitted softly, eyes glistening. "My life fell apart," and I thought the words trailed off into the noise of the storm, but Arthur could feel the weight behind them, the nightmare she was escaping. The silence split open, revealing a raw tension. Arthur shifted uncomfortably, the tension was palpable. "What happened?" he asked gently, trying to summon understanding. He wanted to reach across the void between their lives, but he knew that stepping into her story could pull him under. Her eyes darted nervously, scanning the room as if the walls might speak her truth. "I can't talk about it right now," she finally murmured, pulling the towel tighter around her. Arthur's heart raced, each beat a reminder of both vulnerability and connection. She needed him, needed shelter, but he could sense the storm was bigger than the one outside. Before he could push for more, pastness surged to the surface. He noticed her child, now drowsy, leaning against her. They both looked so fragile, like they could shatter. "I'll help you," he blurted, and felt his stomach clench at the weight of his commitment. But as he tried to offer a comforting smile, something flashed in her eyes, a mixture of relief and fear, as if she was both grateful and terrified of what it could mean. Then, as a particularly loud clap of thunder erupted, another knock sounded at the door. This one was different, it felt more urgent, more sinister. Arthur's heart sank. Who else could that be? He thought, worrying over what they might bring into the fragile bubble he had just created. But he couldn't ignore it. Not now, not when so much was already at stake. As he moved toward the door, every instinct screamed that this would change everything. What was waiting on the other side? He hesitated for a split second, a churning mix of anxiety and dread settling in his gut. Then, steeling himself, he reached for the doorknob. The door creaked open, revealing a swirl of darkness beyond the threshold. A figure stood silhouetted against the soft glow of the hall light, hair plastered to their forehead and clothes soaked through. Arthur's heart raced. "Who are you?" he demanded, as the wind howled, sending a shiver through his spine. "Let me in." The voice was urgent and raspy, piercing the storm outside. Before he could respond, the stranger stepped forward into the threshold. Arthur instinctively backed away, turning to glance at the woman behind him. Her eyes were wide, brimming with a palpable terror that mirrored his own. "Please," the intruder said, desperation clawing their voice. "I'm being chased. You have to help me." Arthur hesitated, caught in a clash of instinct. The mother moved closer, instinctively positioning herself in front of her child. She held the towel tightly around her little boy, fearing not just the rain but what might come next. "Arthur, let us just lock the door," she urged, her voice a frantic whisper. But the stranger's eyes were wild, darting around as if expecting someone to burst in at any moment. "I swear I didn't do anything wrong. Just please, I need sanctuary." The urgency in her voice gnawed at Arthur's conscience. He felt pulled in both directions between providing safety for the delicate family he'd just taken in and the understanding that this unknown person could be the key to unraveling something far larger than himself. "Who's chasing you?" he asked, trying to sound steady, though his voice quivered. "There are men." She was breathless, shaking, her gaze cut through the darkness. "They want to hurt me. I can't go back to them." Before Arthur could respond, the mother shouted, "Get away from the door." The second stranger bolted inside, and Arthur quickly moved to block the entrance. A blaring horn went off from a car outside, followed by muffled cursing, and then silent. As if whatever menace lurked outside had decided to draw closer. Please. The woman's voice split the tension. I can't let them find me. They'll hurt my boy. Arthur could see the child behind her, a quivering bundle of uncertainty. The clash of instincts flared inside him. Did they need his help? Or was inviting them further inside a fatal mistake? The two strangers, their stories intertwining, each pledging for the safety of their lives, sent the room vibrating with urgency. Arthur. The mother whispered, her voice shaking. We need to get out of here now. His heart raced. But just then, another thunderous knock shattered the moment. This time it came from the window, not the door, a frantic tapping that sent chills down Arthur's spine. What else could that be? He thought, fear wrapping around him like a thick fog. He turned, torn between the two strangers behind him and the unknown approaching menace outside. Trust barely existed in this moment, yet the weight of their lives rested in his hands. Arthur, the mother's voice softened, urgency bleeding into desperation, please don't let them in. He felt paralyzed, the choices swelling around him like the storm outside. With every second, the tension grew, pressing against his chest like a vice. As the knocking intensified, another voice called out, deep and raspy. Arthur. Open the door. It's me. It all spiraled out of control. Who was he? Who could he trust? Arthur's breath became shallow. The stakes piled ever higher. What would he do next? The moment had come to decide, but the deeper truth loomed larger than he could comprehend. The darkness outside was no longer just the rain. What awaited him beyond the threshold, beyond the shadows, might change everything. He turned to face the newcomers, the decision weighing heavy in his hands. The question was clear, could he protect them all, or was he stepping into a trap of his own making? The knock came again, this time with a sense of urgency that resonated through the wooden frame of the house. Arthur's heart pounded in his chest as he turned towards the window, the unyielding darkness outside cloaking the intruder in mystery. Who is it? He called out, voice taut, mind racing. It's Danny. Let me in. The voice creaked like old floorboards, filled with uncertainty and desperation. Arthur's instincts flared. He didn't know this Danny, but the name called memories clambering up from the depths of his memory, a childhood friend, one he had lost touch with years ago, but one whose face he could still conjure. Arthur, please. The woman pleaded, her hands shaking as she moved closer. It's not safe for us here. The boy whimpered, clutching tighter to his mother, her ragged breathing filled with anxiety. They needed sanctuary, but so did Danny, whoever he was. In that heartbeat, something primal flickered in Arthur. He stepped towards the door, wavering on the edge of choice. Just a minute. He shouted, his throat dry as though the air had thickened into molasses. He glanced back at the strangers behind him, seeing fear plastered across their faces. Arthur, don't. The mother's voice pierced through the haze, desperation lacing every syllable. He hesitated, but the memories of laughter and friendship urged him forward. He wanted to help. He wanted to be that man who opened his door. But what if by opening it, he only invited danger? Your son needs to be safe. He hissed back, glancing toward the boy whose wide eyes mirrored the turmoil he felt. Trust your instinct, Arthur. We can't stay here. But the urgent calling from the outside pulled at his heart. With a racing pulse, he moved closer to the door. He could already hear the pounding of rain on the roof, mixing with the hollow thumping at his heart. In a swift motion, he fumbled with the bolt. Suddenly, another knock echoed behind him, this one louder. More insistent. It rattled deep in his bones. Arthur. Let me in. They're coming. The urgency in Danny's voice sent a shiver down his spine. Who or what was chasing him? Taking a deep breath, he pulled the door open just a crack, enough to see a figure outlined against the storm. Danny was soaked, eyes wide with fear, a twisted scar across his forehead glistened as though freshly painted. "Arthur, help me!" he gasped, glancing back over his shoulder. The tension swelled, twisting like a coiled spring, threatening to snap. Then, two figures emerged from the shadows of the storm, hulking and formidable, their silhouettes dimly illuminated by flashes of lightning. They were too close, too threatening, and they didn't look friendly. "Move!" Danny shouted, shoving his way in, pushing against Arthur as the strangers clamored behind. The mother shrieked, instinctively wrapping her child closer to her. Every instinct in Arthur screamed for him to shut the door, to save the family he had just met. But Danny lunged forward, fear dancing in his eyes, the newcomers closing in at an alarming pace. Arthur stepped back, adrenaline surging. "Get back!" he yelled, caught between loyalty and the sheer terror of the unknown. But it was too late. The door swung wide, and the storm of chaos tumbled in. The figures skidded to a halt, faces shrouded in darkness until one stepped into the light, revealing a menacing grin that sent ice coursing through Arthur's veins. "Thanks for the invitation, Arthur," the stranger hissed, dripping with malice. Arthur's mind raced, the room shifted from refuge to battlefield in an instant. Would he fight to protect the innocent, or was this his last chance to save them all from the jaws of danger? As the reality of his choice settled in, he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The ticking clock of panic rang in his ears, his heart a drumbeat heralding the unraveling of the night. And just then, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket, a new message lighting the screen: "They're closer than you think." Arthur's stomach dropped, torn between the chaos of his door and the horrors that waited just beyond his reach. What had he invited into his life? What would he risk to close the door on the nightmares outside? The room was charged with dread. Arthur's heart pounded louder now than the storm raging outside. The man grinning at him, this stranger, didn't carry the semblance of normality but rather an air of menace that was palpable. He stood tall, a shadow of a predator announcing his entrance in the only way he knew how. "Close the door, Arthur!" Danny shouted, pushing past his old friend. He rushed into the small living room, breathless and frantic, as if trying to escape an unseen terror. Arthur's thoughts swirled. What had just invaded his quiet night? The woman, bewildered and trembling, drew her child closer. "We need to leave." Her eyes darted between Arthur and the monstrous figure that loomed at the door, her composure unraveling quickly. And still, the man outside stood, unwavering, his smile widening, as if feeding off their fear. "I wouldn't close that door, Arthur." "Not yet." Lightning flashed, and for a split second, the world around them was illuminated. The man's eyes glinted with an eerie amusement, and Arthur could see the details that made his skin crawl: tufts of dark hair slicked against his forehead, a faint stubble that suggested he was no stranger to the outdoors, a leather jacket that seemed to absorb the light. "I know what you're thinking," he said, amusement dripping from each word. "You're trying to weigh your options, trying to decide who's the bigger threat. Me or the man you just let in. Who are you?" Arthur found his voice at last, though it trembled, grappling with an urge to slam the door shut. The man chuckled softly, a chilling sound that echoed through the cramped space. "A friend, for now. Perhaps a benefactor." "Bull," Danny spat, stepping in front of Arthur, his body tense, instinctively protective. "We don't know you. You need to leave." "Leave?" The man shook his head slowly, dark eyes narrowing. "Oh, but we all know you won't be so lucky. Your friend here," he gestured at Arthur, "has just set off a chain of events that brought me to your doorstep." "Isn't that right, Arthur?" The implications suffocated them like a thick fog. Arthur's thoughts raced. What had he done? In letting Danny in, he had unknowingly invited in something darker than he had bargained for. "That terrible truth you've been suffering from for too many years," the man continued, his voice a low hiss. "You've kept it hidden, locked behind that very door." He stepped forward, and caught in his trap of words, Arthur felt the room shrink. "You see, monsters don't only exist in shadows. Sometimes, they live right next door." Fingers trembling uncontrollably, Danny reached for Arthur's hand, squeezing it tight. "We need to go. We need to fight back." But it felt as if they were all frozen. Just then, the mother's voice broke through. "Please, just let us leave. We haven't done anything to you." "Ah, but that's where you're wrong," the man replied, leaning against the doorframe, adopting a lazy stance that dripped with danger. "You've merely stepped into my game." Before Arthur could process the weight of that declaration, Danny lunged towards the door, as if he could shove the man outside again. "Get out, now." The attacker sidestepped effortlessly, his grin unwavering. "And give up the fun?" "No, no. I think our little gathering is only beginning." A low hum reverberated through the air, echoing their uncertainty. Arthur's shaky breaths were met with the dark laughter of the intruder. In that moment, a distant thud resonated from within the house, the unmistakable sound of his basement door creaking open. "That," the man said, eyes glinting with wicked excitement, "is just the beginning. Shall we go see what lies beneath?" Arthur's stomach dropped. What else had he unknowingly invited in? What horrors skulked just out of sight? Time was running out, and their very lives hung in the balance. As the man stepped back, beckoning them forward, Arthur felt a surge of something fierce rise up in him. "I want to let you take anyone," he whispered, "but would it be enough?" What lay in the shadows of his home would challenge everything he thought he knew. Would he face the dark truth descending upon them, or surrender to the chaos? The flickering light seemed to pulse in rhythm with Arthur's racing heart. He could hear the mother's shallow breaths, feel the anxiety radiating off Danny. There was a thick fear in the air, suffocating and heavy, carrying with it the weight of the unknown. "Arthur," Danny said, voice barely above a whisper, urgent fingers wrapped tightly around his wrist. "We can't let him lead us down there. We have to fight." "But how?" Arthur's mind whirled with twisted memories, years of buried secrets, of choices that shaped a hidden part of his life. Was this man here to expose them? To use them against him? The intruder's laughter cut through the tension like a knife. "Oh, my friend, you misunderstand me. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to reveal, to unlock that door you've kept shut for so long." Arthur swallowed hard. The basement door creaked again, as if calling out to him. What lay behind it? Enough to darken his soul. The grin on the man's face deepened, a predator poised to strike. Let us not keep the shadows waiting. No. The mother stepped forward, instinctively positioning her child behind her. Whatever you think you're going to do, you won't touch him. The intruder's gaze shifted to her, briefly intrigued, and for a heartbeat, Arthur could see a thread of calculation behind those dark eyes. Ah, a mother bear. How noble. Get out. Danny shouted, flinging his arm forward, trying to break the spell of fear. But the man simply chuckled, the sound reverberating off the walls like a taunt. Do you honestly think it's that easy? This isn't just about leaving, my dear friends. You're already entangled in this game. From behind him, the basement door creaked open wider, almost inviting. A waft of cold air surged into the room, stirring up a sense of foreboding that prickled Arthur's skin. Isn't it time for you to confront your demons? The intruder asked, his smile widening. Or will you cower and hide like the coward you believe yourself to be? A surge of heat filled Arthur's chest. He felt boldly defiant. Wasn't it time for him to reclaim his life? To stop living in the dark? I'm not afraid of you, he said, voice stronger than he'd expected. Or what's down there? The man's expression shifted, a flicker of interest igniting in his eyes. Caught off guard for a moment, the tension abruptly shifted as he turned fully to face Arthur. That's the spirit. But let me warn you, the monsters you face may not be as easy to vanquish as you think. The mother's grip tightened around her child, her face pale, fear evident in her eyes. Arthur, don't. But the gravity of the intruder's words pressed down on him, an unseen weight pulling him closer to the basement. This was his moment. If he could confront whatever loomed below, perhaps he could save them all. With swift determination, Arthur took a step forward, ignoring the horror brewing behind him. If it's a game you want, I'll play. But I'm the one setting the rules. Then let the games begin, the man replied, his voice silky and smooth as he stepped aside, inviting Arthur toward the gaping darkness below. Thunder rumbled outside, echoing Arthur's rising heart. This was his call to action. He was not just facing the intruder anymore but the very memories he had long buried. As he approached the basement door, Danny shouted again, "Arthur, wait." But the connection was broken. And in that moment, with every inch bearing down on him, Arthur felt the fragile thread of hope slip slightly away. Had he made the right choice? The darkness loomed, ready to unveil the hidden truths of his soul. What awaited him in the depths beyond, and would he emerge unscathed? Or would this dark night be the final chapter in all their lives? Arthur stepped forward, heart pounding louder than the storm raging outside. The darkness beyond the basement door seemed to swirl and pulse, a living entity beckoning him to cross its threshold. He hesitated. The memories, long forgotten yet preserved like artifacts in his mind, whispered threats of pain and shame. "Arthur." Danny's voice was sharper now, desperate. "Don't do this." But the intruder merely stepped back, opening his arms as if welcoming Arthur into the abyss. "You think you can turn back now? You've already chosen. Remember, it's not just a door, it's a passageway." His pulse quickened. The man had a point. Every step he took now was a step away from the person he used to be, a leap of faith into the unknown. Marking this moment in his mind, this crossroads, he edged closer to the staircase leading downward. The air grew heavier, thick with secrets and stale fears. Each creak of the wooden steps sent jolts of terror through him, yet also sharpened his resolve. If he was going to find a way out and save his family, he needed to venture deeper. "Let us go," the intruder urged, his eyes glinting with sadistic hunger. "Let us see what horrors await you. I can't wait for you to meet the shadows and the fears you thought you could escape." Arthur's heart sank as he reached the bottom step, the darkness enveloping him. It felt like stepping into a coffin, the air dense and cold. He squinted, trying to make sense of the shifting outlines around him. "Stay alert," he muttered to himself, grounding his fleeting courage. Suddenly, a low voice slithered through the darkness. "You can't escape us, Arthur. We are a part of you." It echoed, bouncing off the walls like a taunt that a shiver coursed through his spine. He turned, half expecting to see a looming figure, but the basement was empty save for tangled shadows. Panic threatened to overwhelm him. The memories, however, began unfolding, fragments of laughter, echoes of betrayal, and whispers of regret. "Faster, Arthur." The intruder's voice taunted from the top of the stairs. "Don't you want to play? Or are you just going to stand there, frozen in fear?" "Shut up," Arthur shouted back, fueled by a surge of defiance. He moved deeper, trying to forge through the crushing weight of his past. That a glimpse of something glimmered in the corner of his eye. He turned and saw a photograph hanging crookedly on the wall, a snapshot of a family, laughing. It struck him like a lightning bolt. His family. Memories flashed, birthdays chaotic with joy, quiet moments on the couch, tender words spoken just before sleep. Swift determination replaced uncertainty. "I want to let you take them." He yelled into the void. The laughter returned, ominous and chilling. "And what if no?" He cut in, his voice steady now. "I'm taking control. I refuse to let you win." But just as Arthur found his footing, the shadows shifted again. From behind, a figure emerged, slowly. It was a child's silhouette, small yet haunting. "Daddy?" the faint voice whispered, sending terror racing through Arthur's heart. "Why did you leave me?" His breath caught. The weight of all his guilt threatened to drag him to his knees. "I'm here. I never wanted to. Are you really going to confront me?" The intruder called from above, the amusement thick in his tone. Or will you run back to the light? Arthur was torn, each option a chain anchored to forgotten pain. The basement loomed as a reflection of his darkest fears. He clenched his fists, demanding his heart to steady. I will fight. I won't run anymore, he declared, feeling the pulse of strength surging within him. In a heartbeat, everything changed again. Suddenly, the walls around him began to close in, the air thick with the scent of decay. Time is running out, Arthur. Echoed the voice, each word a countdown to a final revelation. The child's figure took a step closer, and Arthur realized with horror what he was about to face, what awaited him as he summoned the courage to confront the truths lurking in the shadows. Would he emerge as the man he needed to be, or would this descent seal his fate forever? The shadow of the child loomed larger as the darkness closed in around them, suffocating and oppressive. Arthur's chest tightened. He wanted to reach for the child, to gather that small figure in his arms, to tell them everything would be okay. But the fear held him captive. Daddy, please don't leave me again, the voice whimpered, a haunting echo of his past failures. Each whispered word pierced deeper than a dagger, evoking a swirl of emotions: guilt, sorrow, and desperate longing. He took a step back, cold sweat gathering along his brow. The shadows shifted with sinister laughter, a chorus of taunts rising and falling, entwining with his thoughts. What kind of father are you? They jeered. You abandoned them. You deserve this. He clenched his jaw and shook his head. No. I tried to protect you. Suddenly, the basement trembled, the walls cracked, revealing a horrifying glimpse of what lay beyond a twisted reality where laughter turned to screams, where joy morphed into terror. Arthur stumbled, barely maintaining his balance as the very ground beneath him threatened to give way. Make your choice, Arthur. The intruder echoed from behind, his voice brimming with malicious delight. Face the past, or run. But know this, running only leads to more pain. With shaking hands, he reached for the photograph still hanging crookedly on the wall. His family alive and vibrant smiled back at him. I will not lose them again. His voice trembled but held an unwavering resolve. He stepped closer to the child's shadow. What do you want from me? He shouted, his voice breaking the haunting silence. The silhouette flickered, revealing a tear-streaked face. I want you to fight, it whispered, a plea that hung heavy in the air, igniting a spark of hope deep within him. You've hidden for too long. And in that instant, clarity struck, cutting through the tangled emotions like a knife. Arthur surged forward, deeper into the shadows, determined to confront the darkness rather than run from it. I will fight. He roared. I will face my fears. The laughter now morphed into a discordant symphony, shaking the very foundation of the basement. The walls around him quivered and began to twist, pulling back the shadows like a curtain. What he saw made his heart race, a series of doors, each one a memory layered in dread and guilt. Choose wisely, Arthur, the intruder crooned from the periphery, his tone dripping with delight. Each door hides a truth, but some truths are better left undisturbed. Arthur's eyes darted from door to door, sweat pooling at his temples. Behind one door, he could almost hear the sounds of his son's laughter, another door beckoned with the comforting presence of his wife. Yet another hummed ominously, threatening to unleash every failure he had tried to bury. Would he dare step through one of those doors? What if it led to more nightmares instead of healing? Time is running out. The voice echoed again, a deafening reminder of the urgency pressing in around him. And then he remembered the child, the small figure who deserved a father who fought for them. His decision crystallized in that moment, the clarity of purpose hardening his resolve. Arthur stepped forward, reaching for the door that shimmered with the memory of love, hope, a glimmer of what could be. I choose you. He yelled, pushing the door open with one swift motion, but as the door creaked open, the shadows roared back in defiance, swirling together like a storm. What awaited him on the other side was still a mystery, but one thing was clear: whatever happened next, there would be no turning back. The real nightmare hasn't even begun, the intruder hissed, a smile twisting across his lips. As Arthur crossed the threshold, the echoes of his past surged, and he ventured into the unknown, ready to fight for his family, but in choosing, what price would he pay? Would he find peace or awaken something darker? As Arthur stepped through the door, a rush of icy air slapped against his face, carrying with it the scent of rain-soaked earth and something metallic. His surroundings morphed instantly from darkness into a vivid landscape, drenched in shades of gray and vivid mist. It felt oddly like a dream yet painfully real that he stood in an empty street, the pavement slick and shimmering under the glow of flickering streetlights. The sound of distant thunder rumbled like a warning, and raindrops began to tap softly against the ground, quickening to a frantic beat as he glanced around. The magic of the moment was punctured by fear as he realized he was utterly alone. "Where am I?" he whispered, unease knotting in his stomach. Wordlessly, a vision tugged at him. A figure stood at the far end of the street, silhouetted against the stormy sky, the faint outline of a woman clutching a small child to her chest, soaked to the bone. His heart raced. Was this another memory, one he hadn't fully recognized yet? "Hey!" he shouted, his voice cracking against the howling wind. "Are you okay?" The woman turned slowly, her features obscured by the torrential downpour, but in that moment, Arthur felt a familiar pull. It was as if his heart skipped a beat, igniting something long buried deep inside him. Maybe this woman was a reflection of his past, a forgotten fragment spilling into the present. "Please help me," she cried, desperation lacing her words as she stumbled forward, water splashing around her shivering frame. Instinct pushed Arthur into motion. He ran toward her, heart thudding against his ribs. "What's wrong? What happened?" "My son, she gasped, eyes wide with terror. "He needs help. He's lost." A terrifying chill swept through him. The image of his own child flickered in his mind, a painful reminder of the losses he had faced. Without thinking, he called out, "We can find him together." "Where did he go?" "Everywhere," she wailed, tears mixing with the rain. "He just vanished." Before Arthur could process her words fully, a faint cry pierced the storm, childlike, fragile, a haunting echo that made his blood run cold. It reverberated in the air, drawing him like a moth to a flame. He could almost see his son's face, caught in the folds of shadows just beyond reach. "Listen to me," Arthur said, urgency spilling over. "We need to get you both to safety. Where do you think he could be?" As Arthur reached out to touch her shoulder, an electric jolt surged between them, a connection that suddenly bridged their fears. The world around them blurred slightly, twisting as if they were standing on the edge of two separate realities. "Just follow the sound," the woman murmured, her voice strained but determined. "He's close, I can feel it." Together, they began to walk, searching the desolate street. The rain pounded harder, a deafening backdrop to their racing hearts. With every step, they ventured deeper into the unknown, the shadows darting around them like predatory creatures, swallowing the light. Suddenly, the child's cry grew louder, urgent, vulnerable, echoing through the darkness. Just as hope flickered within Arthur, he caught sight of a shape, huddled behind a nearby street lamp. In one swift motion, he dashed forward. "Please, God, let it be him." His heart thundered as panic gripped him, but as they approached, the light flickered once more, revealing an image that chilled him, a child's face twisted in fear, yet unrecognizable. The wind howled violently, and Arthur froze, dread crashing over him like the waves of the storm. "No!" he gasped, backing away. "What is happening?" The shadows closed in, laughter mingling with the rain, and the intruder's voice echoed in his mind. "You've entered a game, Arthur. One mistake, and everything you fear will come to life." Would he face this torment or fall prey to the darkness once more? The choice loomed before him like a specter, and as he glanced back at the woman, fear etched on her face, desperation clinging to her like raindrops, he realized one truth: he must either stand and fight or risk losing everything again. The shadows twirled like a tempest, and Arthur knew the worst was yet to come. Would he choose to confront the terror of their past? Or would he let it consume him whole? Arthur's breath came heavy and fast, the pounding rain seeming to match the frantic rhythm of his heart. He stood at the edge of a decision, facing the distorted remnants of fear and loss swirling around him. The eerie laughter of shadows twisted into his thoughts, their taunts hollering from the recesses of his memory. This new reality, born from the depths of despair, challenged everything he believed. "Don't you dare run!" echoed the intruder's voice, gold-laced and venomous, now fused into Arthur's mind. But he wouldn't surrender. Not now, not again. The child's face twisted in anguish hovered in front of him, invading his thoughts. Memory after memory crashed inside his mind, moments he had buried like relics in a forgotten grave. He could almost hear the echoes, voices carrying nostalgia and regret. "Where are you?" The mother's voice quivered beside him, tethering him to this moment. "Help me find my son." "Together," he replied, locking eyes with her. Even as courage surged, dread clawed at his insides. "We can break this. I want to run." He stepped forward, body taut but resolute, embracing the tension hovering in the air. Arthur knew too well what it meant to flee from the echoes of the past. He had let it dictate his life for too long. "No more. Remember," the shadows whispered, intertwining with the wind. "You've chosen the path of madmen. Will you withstand the storm?" With renewed determination, he gripped the woman's arm. "We'll find your son. I'll lead the way." The words ignited a spark in her eyes. Hope flickered, the tiniest flame within the storm's chaos. Together, they pressed deeper into the restless darkness, searching for the source of that fragile cry. The shadows thickened around them, but something shifted inside Arthur. Instead of fear, he could feel a new power, the power to confront his past. As they moved forward, the surreal landscape morphed, the desolation stripping everything down to nothingness. "Hold on," he urged, leading her through the twisted shapes that threatened to engulf them. The echoes of the child's cries grew louder, drawing them toward hope through the tempest of despair. At last, they rounded a corner. A flickering light guided their path, illuminating a small figure crouched against a wall. "It's him!" the woman gasped, and without hesitating, Arthur surged toward the child. "Buddy!" he cried out instinctively, heart swelling with raw emotion, for in his stormy mind, he felt the universal pull of fatherhood. The child, eyes wide and trembling, looked up. "Daddy?" His voice was a fragile whisper, revealing all the pain of separation, of loss. It cut deep into Arthur's chest. "Yeah, I'm here," he breathed, dropping to his knees as he enveloped the child in his arms. The warmth of his son soaked into him, igniting a fire he thought extinguished. "I'm so sorry. I'll never leave you again." But the shadows pressed harder, determined to snatch back what was being reclaimed. He felt pressure against him, the laughter, the madness threatening to swallow them whole. "You think this will save you?" the dark voice hissed, mocking. "You're too late. You've lost before you've begun." "No, I'm not," Arthur shouted back, holding his son tighter. He turned to the mother, who stood near him, faint light spilling over her face, blurring the edges of despair. "We have to unite. Our strength can break this hold." With fierce defiance, she stepped forward, her eyes sparkling with purpose. "Our love, our families, they give us energy. We will fight together." In that moment, something shifted. Hand in hand, they stood against the darkness, hearts pounding as they summoned the strength they didn't know was there. It surged through Arthur, radiating from his love for his son, ignited by the raw hope of the woman beside him. Together, they channeled that power outward, confronting the shadows that loomed ominously. "What do you truly fear?" the twisted voice sneered. "Will you ever claim your place in the light?" "I fear nothing," Arthur shot back, every ounce of strength burning in his veins. "I'll fight for my family. I've spent too long running. Now I choose to stand." As if responding to his declaration, the shadows recoiled. With raw strength flowing through their connected hearts, Arthur and the mother reached deep down, fueling the essence of reality bursting beneath them, love interwoven with sacrifice and strength, and just like that, the dark laughter faded, retreating until it was nothing but a whisper merging with the storm. Light pierced through the darkness, only love remained, solid and unyielding. Arthur opened his eyes to find himself back in the warm interior of his home. The chaos around him had faded, leaving behind a fragile peace. The mother stood by him, staring in disbelief, relief spilling onto her face. The child clung to her leg, wide-eyed but safe. We did it," she said incredulously, shaking her head as if awakening from a nightmare. That he nodded slowly, glancing around the room that felt almost foreign yet achingly familiar. "Yes, we faced it. Together." The pounding of the rain had subsided, leaving behind a stillness that echoed within him, a world reclaimed. He felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted from his soul. "Thank you," the mother whispered, her voice thanking him for the more than he could express. "You saved us." But in that moment, Arthur knew the truth. It wasn't just about saving them, it was about saving himself, about recognizing the love that had been buried deep within. In the hushed intimacy of the room, he could finally feel hope lingering in corners, emerging from shadows and illuminating pathways for all of their lives. "No," he replied. "We saved each other." And so, under the soft light of the chandelier, they began to piece their lives back together, turning the page of a new chapter filled with promise and new beginnings. This was the moment, a farewell to the shadows and a hello to the light. Now that you've reached the end of this exhilarating tale, don't forget to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And for true fans, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us connect as a community that cherishes every thrilling story.